Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another delicious episode of SpecTalk. I'm always excited for these, but sometimes these episodes just hit you the right way. And today's is, I mean, so many people have registered for today. The audience is going to be big and engaged, and I can't wait to introduce well, you probably already know who our special guest is, but we're getting there in a second. We're getting there. So let's get on with the housekeeping and intros today. As always, we have with us Alex Bear, who is my partner in crime on these Spec Talks. Say hi, Alex.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning.
Yeah, with me, obviously, I'm Dory Azar, licensed architect and senior strategic sales specialist here at RIB SpecLink. And our special guest today, I don't know how you introduce a guy like Gary, but I wrote down a couple of notes just to try to capture
Uh-oh.
his awesomeness before we get started here.
Uh-oh.
So
Be
yeah,
nice.
no, well, the police gave me a couple things that I could read also. So
You talk to the
we're
right people. Great. Great. Yep. Trying to hide that. Yep.
Gary Christiansen is the client education manager here at RIB Software. Gary just celebrated 7 years with the company and is responsible for all client education. And we'll expand on that as we go deeper into the webinar today. Fun fact about Gary too, he's like an extreme spin instructor. So I guess this is the point where we tell people to saddle up, and we're gonna get started here. Is that too
Right. We're
cheesy
gonna
of a
we're gonna keep that
segue?
analogy going too. Yep. Yep. I wouldn't say
uh,
extreme. People know what they're getting when they come to Gary's class. Yes. Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I've never been to one of your classes, so in my mind, any spin is extreme. So let's roll with that. As always, guys, we are still hosting our specified and SpecLink contest. So if you've got a project that you've used SpecLink to specify and want to submit it for our contest with the chance to win some prizes here, as you see on the screen there, some wireless Bluetooth speaker and some SpecLink swag. By all means, get in touch with us in the handout panel and go to webinar up at the top. Should have all the information that you need. So we're not going to waste a lot of time on the intros. We're going to dive right in. Today is about SpecLink Office Masters, and the few things that we're going to cover today are how to create, manage, and update your Office Masters, which is, I mean, as critical as anything you're ever going to do in preparing your specs from that point forward. Talk about starting new projects from your Office Masters and just giving yourself the best chance at success once your project gets started. And then tips and tricks for full circle communication, because we know on any project, big or small, communication is absolutely pivotal in making it a success. So we are definitely excited to let Gary take over, and it's all yours, Gary. Let's get started.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So I'm glad you were able to show the goals. What I want to do is take 1 second. I'm going to take that screen over. It's going to ask me which screens I want. And we wait for GoToWebinar to tell us what to do
Yeah.
next. There we go. Okay,
And
so we're going
the comment section is open, the chat is open. So if anybody wants to start letting us know your questions or thoughts or anything that you want to chat about, Alex and I are going to be manning that today. So by all means, load us up here. Let's start the discussion now.
Chat away.
Right on. Right on. So I'm going to back up one slide. Dory did do a great job of giving a little info about our goals today once I learned how to use PowerPoint, which you're all going to watch me do today again. Anyway, this happens every time. So I've watched a number of these spec talks, and I think it's funny because people have commented that, or the guests have commented that, oh, Gary's on the line answering questions, that type of thing. Well, I've been doing that as a guest, like everybody else who's watching these. And my partner in crime, Alex Fulton, who's the training specialist on the training team, he's been doing the same thing. He's on today, so I guarantee he'll have some comments or make sure Gary does this or says that type of thing. But as I've watched some of these spec talks, I've been blown away by the details. Whether it's linking with Beth Stroshane, whether it's tagging with Eric Letbetter, whether it's the conversation with Amy Baker about the different print options and that type of thing, and then all the different things Holly Jordan has covered. And I came to the realization that I almost want to take all of that and step back from it, maybe even 2 or 3 layers. And there is a workflow for SpecLink that will help you make the best use of these tools. Almost to the point where every time you create a new project, you're saving another few minutes, that type of thing. and I had a very almost, doing a lot of video editing, audio editing. I work very linearly, and I will say that Dory woke me up yesterday and said people do these things in a lot of different ways. So can we make sure that no matter where they start from, they have a way to get not only get back to this, but to get on this path and really save themselves a ton of time. And we can absolutely do that as we go through. Don't be shy with the questions or the comments, and I know Dory and Alex are not going to be shy about interrupting me as I get going. However, I
With
am a bit
pleasure.
like a train on the tracks. Yep.
We do that.
I'm a bit like a train on a track. So as soon as I get going, feel free to say, Gary, we got a question about this or what have you. So um, again, just to reiterate the goals here, we're going to define and describe the different types of office masters. So I want to actually start by talking about the difference between projects and office masters. As somebody who trains a lot of new users and seasoned users, that's something that comes up quite a bit. I want to make sure we're clear on those things. And then this process for creating an office master and then having versions of it as we get along. And every time you create that new version, you're saving yourself all of that time because you're copying that previous version to make new projects. So there's a couple of teams involved, and we want to just lay the foundation for that and make sure, again, you're getting the most out of what you can actually do with SpecLink. Things like tagging, checklists, collaboration, all those things come in after you've kind of started this process. All of those, by the way, are great SpecTalk topics for down the road. Those are all great things to dive into and spend an hour talking about today. I really want to make sure people see this process, not just talk about it, but actually see it. So we're going to go through and create that. But I would consider a first office master, maybe the first work in progress office master, and then talk about what's involved in that process. Is that something that you want to get involved with our professional services team? Are you using RIB content? Are you not using RIB content? Are you only using your custom user content? It's a lot of ways to do that. We have users that actually do that. They don't use the RIB content. They're just bringing in their own content. The tool allows you to do what you need to do to create specs fast and accurately. It's a really important thing. And then we'll create or we'll review that step-by-step walkthrough of how to create projects from your office masters. And then all the way through that, we'll talk about certain things that if you can come up with a plan and stick to the plan of updating your formatting, updating the content, keeping in mind all of the different players and think to yourself, it doesn't have to be just the people in my office or in my department. I can have building product manufacturers chime in. They can be, you can give them access to see things without ever worrying about them changing something. And that having that communication and keeping that kind of full circle of the lines of communication open, it really changes the way you'll end up working. So the first thing I always do, and I'm going to pop into SpecLink in just 1 second, but doesn't matter the kind of training I do. It doesn't matter what the topic is. I always bring people to the guide. Holly Jordan mentioned this last time. This was one of the best tips she's ever learned, which I thought was great, and it really does show the usefulness of the guide. I'm going to bounce over into SpecLink Cloud. You see that okay? Everybody see SpecLink Cloud okay? Give me a thumbs up, Dory, if that's showing the way it should be. Excellent. All I've done, excellent. All I've done is logged in. That's it. So I'm logged into SpecLink Cloud, and I show everybody these same steps. I come up to the upper right corner. I've got my initials, so I know who I am. Sometimes I got to remind myself. And then if I come over to this question mark, which is in this same location on every screen of SpecLink, you're going to find that question mark. It might be the inverse color, but you're going to find it on every single screen of SpecLink Cloud. When I click that guide, it's going to open to the guide. And the guide is your single source of truth for learning SpecLink. So you've got these quick start lessons. You've got all these videos, got 75 videos, 139 articles, that type of thing, and our release notes. So anytime a big release comes out with enhancements and new features and any fixes that we've made, you'll see those in detail with a video that goes through that. What Holly had mentioned last time, and she's actually mentioned this a whole bunch of times, is I always tell people, take this tab and move it over. Now you have the guide available to you, but it's not in the way, because at any time you could have multiple tabs of sections that you're working in, because you can have more than one section of a project open at one time. So you can actually compare the cast in place concrete with the concrete reinforcing and make sure that those things maybe have the same things that they need to have in, or what have you. Maybe you have to make sure the ASTMs are the same or consistent or what have you. So there's different ways to look at that. So that's a really powerful piece of this. When you look at something like the different types of projects, public, private, and hidden, well, what does that mean? Well, if I come back to the guide, I can very quickly look, and this is one thing I try to always point out. There's an article here under the knowledge base, the SpecLink Cloud summary of colors and symbols. And I can see immediately what the project types are, what the sequence number color coding is. Why is this text blue in that fill in the blank red or green, that type of thing. So this is a really important thing. It almost unlocks SpecLink for you. So you can see what those different things are. So be very aware. The guide is very, very helpful. I've had multiple people from all walks that use SpecLink say this is one of the ways we not only learned, but have really advanced our use with SpecLink is by using the guide. So some quick definitions. When we dive into SpecLink, we've got projects and we've got office masters. So you have these two tabs that we're going to focus on today. Projects are the things that are happening in the real world. These are the active construction projects that are being developed. I'm building a library, I'm building a new high school, we're renovating a laboratory, that type of thing. That's what projects are. They're happening in the real world. Office masters, a lot of people have different definitions for these. I like to say they're the templates for all active projects. So you copy your office master for the creation of a new project. That makes a lot of sense. In its best case scenario, your office master is the way you go about doing business. It has everything that could ever be in any project. Okay. Now, some people are probably saying that's a little extreme, but if you can manage that, you only have to update one thing. You're not updating multiple masters. And that's really our goal, is to update as little as we have to, is to spend the time. I want to save as much time as possible. I've always called the office masters kind of your best of album. So I'm going to use this fictitious architecture firm today, Park and Ride Architects, and we're going to create an office master that's our best specs. This is all of our sections that we use on any given project.
I love this album. I love this album.
I know Dory kind of he threw me a couple of curveballs yesterday, which I really appreciated, about how people he's talked to and how people Alex have talked to have used this concept, and we can fill this in as we go. But this you'll get this, you'll copy this this best of album, putting a spin on it to create new projects. Get it?
Ooh.
Sorry. Go ahead. Shut my mic. It's all. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Thank you, everybody, for attending today's SpecTalk.
Somebody was laughing. I just saw a laugh. Hey, there's people laughing. That's good.
A few laughs coming through. Yeah. Okay.
I don't think there's an eye roll emoji though. That's the.
Oh, there is. There is. It's coming.
It's coming. Yeah. So when we talk about office masters, there's really two types, and I would say this isn't even like 80-20. It's more like 98-2 as far as the percentages go. So content office masters are the win. Those are the things that you're going to be able to reuse. So you're not rewriting the unit skylight section every time you go into a project. You're not rewriting the door hardware section every time you go into a project. There's such an important ability to say, okay, it's not about, and this is one of the things that we talk about a lot when we talk about moving from word processing tools into a database like SpecLink Cloud is, if you're using word processing tools and you're copying the last project to make the new project, that's really dangerous. You never know what's changed in between time, but with the updating of the RIB content and your team's updating of the master, you're solving that, doing it this way. Okay, so content office masters are really the most common office masters. Your user content, any of the RIB content that you're using. Some people start off their office masters with the RIB content and they go straight forward because they know they already have those sections built and they can just add to them, which is a really powerful way to do that. The other thing I've seen is owners who use the office master concept for guide specs or design standards, and that way they're just putting in they're not huge projects. They're just putting in what they need to then deliver to the architecture firms, the engineering firms, the consultants to say, this is the way we do this. We need you to stick with this and then write the full specs out. Okay. The other thing I have seen is this concept of a format master, which is really client specific. It's really about, hey, my architecture firm uses a very specific header and footer. This is more for what I've seen as engineering firms or consulting firms that say, okay, we're writing your specs. We have many architecture firms and we're just going to build these templates out. So I don't see that anywhere near as often as the content office masters for sure. Excellent. So things to think about just as we start to dive into this concept of creating this first office master. Identify and gather all of your current user content. Is RIB assisting with the import? So we do that. Our professional services team can help with that. That's something that we usually bring a third party in to help with as well with the content. So that's an important thing to understand, that we can do that. But on your end, from the client end, you want to really identify your office master review team. And that doesn't matter if we're helping with the import, or if you're doing your import yourself, or if you're even just starting with RIB content. You really want to have that team defined. Who's going to be responsible for maybe the discipline, maybe the division, maybe the sections, maybe very specific sections, that type of thing. Are you using user content only? Are you including RIB content? Maybe you're only going to use the RIB content. How often will the office master be versioned? That's really where we're going with this, is how to handle that updating and versioning of the office master. So from a 30,000 foot view, you'll create that office master, you'll import any user content, activate any RIB content that you want to use, and you'll do your editing. So you're coming up with that best of, right? That the way you guys do business is going to be that work in progress office master. And when that's done, that could take a couple of weeks, depending on what you do. That could take a couple of months. We've had clients take a year to do that. It really depends on what your bandwidth is. And before anybody says, well, we can't do that, especially with the conversation I had with Dory yesterday, show you a couple of different ways around that too. So we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm just trying to give you a template of a workflow to get you to that point. So you'll make all those changes and you'll have that, okay, right now today, as a snapshot in time, this is the way we do business. This is our best of. So that's what you're going to lock, and then you'll copy that for any new projects, going for as long as it is until you are ready with the next version. Okay, so the lock copy is the thing that you copy to make new projects, and another copy of that becomes your quarter two. Let's say we have quarter one, and that's going to be your quarter two. All right, so this creating the work in progress office master, imported content, edited, activated RIB master content, and your updated format, your user format. Let's dive into SpecLink and do that. So from here, I'm going to go to office masters. Now, a couple of things to be aware of. This is why it's so great that I'm glad these are recorded. They'll hit YouTube, the whole bit. I could click create new project right from the projects dashboard, and I will get the option to create an office master.
Gary, let me jump in for a quick second here. Just on that note, you did mention YouTube. In the handouts panel up top, there's a one-page printout. There's a QR code in there that will bring you directly to our YouTube channel to watch this episode and all the previous ones to this one. I think they're updated by tomorrow. I think it'll be uploaded by tomorrow. And we are also going to make, if it's okay with you, Gary, we're going to make your PDF, your PowerPoint presentation available in PDF form that we can follow up with viewers who are interested in getting a copy of that as well.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Excellent.
So I can choose office master. Now, one of the things I do run into is, we've got so many people that have joined in today. We've got 286 people on. I can almost guarantee that somebody doesn't have access to create an office master. So that's something you go to your team and say, Is this something I can do? Is this can we look at our role permissions and can we get the ability to do this? So that's something you want to look at. The process that I usually walk people through when we're creating a new Office Master is to click on the Office Masters tab. Work in the world you live in, right? So here I am, Office Masters. I'm going to create a new master. And from here, I'm going to create an Office Master. And it's going to ask me, where do I want to start? I'm going to start at master content. And then I'm going to start with the RIB master content. Now, this is, again, something that you will see throughout, something that our development team is looking at. There's some definite options coming down the road. Right now, we'll click next to fill in the project information, and you must fill every single thing out. So I'm going to go Park and Ride Architects, Office Master, and I'll tell you some things that I see regularly. I see something like do not delete or something along those lines. So it's really a reminder for people that this is that important. That we're not gonna delete this. In an Office Master situation, you won't really run into that too much because only the people that can that have that role permission, which is usually going to be a manager or system manager. So we're not going to really worry too much about that. Here, I'm going to say, because we are in quarter one, I'm going to say quarter one. Perfect. All right. Now I do need to go through the selections here. So because I am up in Boston, Massachusetts, I think I've done a pretty great job already of putting the as in all the words. Go Bruins. I will choose other for the project type, and I will choose that hit home. I will choose.
Oh yes, Corrine with the thumbs down. I love it.
Okay.
Oh yeah. You threw the first stone, Gary.
I did. I welcome it. Yep. Die hard. Excellent. So we'll fill those things out. And again, for the project type, there is an other option. For work type, there's an other option. For a lot of people, the Office Master, you're not going to have this information. Doesn't really matter. You're going to choose something along these lines. It doesn't really matter what you put in here, but you do need to choose something. And then we will click Finish, and my new Office Master will be created. And I'll be brought right into the sections list. Okay. And this is a really important piece of this. I'm going to go to the slides. I'll come right out of the slides. No worries. I'm not going to spend the day in the slides. This is the process I just went through. All right. So when we do give you the slides, you'll have this process. I'm also going to add to the slide deck the links to the guide articles so that you can see those and have those right there. So no worries about that. All right. The next thing we want to do, okay, well, the first thing maybe we want to do, I think, is the last step here, which is review the summary info. And then we want to talk about importing your user content. Okay. So first thing I want to do, when you're in a project at all in SpecLink, you have your sections, you have any Revit files that you may want to upload, totally different subjects, and then you have the summary info. And the summary info gives you the ability to turn some things on, turn some things off. These are functions. Like, do we want to recognize reference standards? Again, a great SpecTalk discussion down the road. How do we handle related requirements? I like to think of this as, okay, how do we want things to look? I want my Office Master and most of my projects handle the section ID with 2 digits and a period, and then the 4 digits. I see that a lot. I see the 6-digit straight a lot too. Are we including RIB content? You have the ability to hide the RIB content if you need to. Okay, that's really, I've probably seen 6 customers do that. Very, very few do it. You should know you have the power to do that. How do you want the unit of measure to be displayed? How do you want the date and time format to be displayed? These are very important things to look through, because when you copy this for your new projects and your new Office Master, obviously your next version, these things all come with it. So you don't have to redo these things over and over again. So that step 7 of review the summary info is really that first time that you create your Office Master, you definitely want to do this. Take a look at those things. Okay. And then you may even actually want to come down to the project sharing and privacy and change this to a hidden project. This is all something to get into a little bit of detail about learning public, private, and hidden. Public projects mean that anybody on your account that has a login on your account can actually see and access the project. But again, that's going to go by their role permissions. Most standard users and expert users won't get into the Office Masters. It really depends on how you want to set that up. Private projects, they can see them, but they have to be granted access. You have to invite them, even if they're on your account. You have to invite them in. And hidden projects, which is actually pretty smart. Hidden projects is something that's like, okay, only the people that are invited can actually see it. Dory, question? Okay,
No,
excellent. All right, so I'm going to leave this as public because I know only the people that I really want to even be able to access an Office Master can get to it anyway. And then when I go to sections, I will dive in and bring in the content that I want and activate the content that I want. So let's say I work in, again, I use concrete a lot. So if I go into the concrete world, I can say, hey, I want to activate concrete reinforcing. All of these things that we're getting into when we're working in the sections list. I want to activate concrete reinforcing. I want to activate cast in place. I want to activate shotcrete. This whole process is all part of creating any project. It all works the same. I like to say that whether you're on the projects tab or the Office Masters tab, the functions are exactly the same. It just depends on who can get to them and what the concept of an Office Master is versus the concept of a project. So once I've got my Q1 built, and maybe I've gone ahead and activated and worked in some sections, the next thing we really want to do is make sure we import the content that we want. So if we have Word documents, have to be Word documents currently, you can import those in. The other thing, and this was, again, part of the conversation we had yesterday in preparation for this. So if I click New and I say Import from Word, I can bring in a Word document specification section. Okay. Now there's a ton of content in the guide about this. There's preparing the Word document. There's the best practice steps for importing. There's steps for taking the enhanced text in and automatically creating reference standards or global terms, things like that. There's so much to that topic by itself. But Dory had said, well, what if somebody didn't buy SpecLink yesterday? What if they've been creating projects all along and just never created an Office Master? You can do this very quickly then. Your Office Master creation is not going to take months because you've already written really great sections that really mean something to your organization. So I can go import from project. And maybe if I click import from project, I can go and say, hey, I want to go into the Piedmont Road project or let's see, I can go back to an older one too. I can go to,
actually, Gary, this question did come through in the questions panel here. Nicholas was it Nicholas? Hold on, let me get my. Nope, I got that incorrect. Oh, I lost it. It fell off my screen now. But there was a question of, can we create a master template from an existing project? So I think this is what you're answering here. Yeah.
And two ways to do that. So hang tight, because I think what you're going to see in a minute is probably going to blow your mind a little bit. But this is a great way to start. If you've created the Office Master and this whole process is kind of already on the tracks and moving forward, you can say, hey, I imported this traffic control section. I imported this into my Asheville library section, or I'm sorry, my Asheville library project very recently, and this is exactly how I want this. And also, I can bring in a section like I chose cast in place concrete, and you know what? I'll choose another one because I already have that one. But I'll say stone masonry veneer, and say, okay, it's an RIB section, so it's already in this version of the Office Master, but it's not active, nor is it edited. Well, I've already edited this to make it the way I want it to be. So when I click import, the traffic control section is going to come in, no problem. All right, but the stone masonry veneer section is going to say, hey, this already exists. It's not activated. No work is done to it. But do you want to overwrite this? It's going to overwrite it. I absolutely do. I want to begin importing. And that's going to tell me when those two sections have been brought in from that other project. That's a really great way to save a bunch of time. In fact, I've worked with a couple of organizations who've just said, hey, guys, go ahead, use SpecLink. Just create projects. Start with the RIB content. If you need to import Word documents, they kind of did that together as a side project. But they dove in knowing that they were starting with the best content in the industry as a general section, and then they could write and edit those to match what they wanted. They ended up doing this. They ended up creating a blank Office Master. Basically, they just said, hey, just start with the RIB content, and then they imported the sections they needed. Now, who was that just asked that question, Dory? Do you remember the name?
No, the questions are coming in fast, so they keep falling off the screen, okay. the scrolling.
So here's the other way around that. So if you've already created a project, maybe you've done a few different projects and one of them is just like, wow, we did a ton of work on this. It has a whole bunch of our content already done. You can go back. I'm going to keep this here. Okay. I'm going to go back to my Office Masters tab and I'm going to create a new master. Okay. But let's take a look at this projects tab for a second. Let's say this Asheville library. Okay, let's say for some reason you do libraries. That's your specialty. You build libraries. And you said, okay, well, we built this Asheville library and it's these 23 sections, which is clearly low, but you use this as an example, but we could say, hey, I want to start with this. I want to start with this as the master. Well, I'm going to go to my Office Masters tab. I'm going to create a new master and I'm going to say, are you creating an Office Master? I'm going to say, yep. And then I'm going to copy from an existing project. And I'm going to copy the Asheville library. And now I have a new Office Master that starts with all of the content from that library. Okay, so there's no reinventing the wheel. Okay, if you've already written that section out and detailed everything the way you want to, import it from the project into your Office Master or copy the project as a new Office Master.
And the global terms are great to help you sort of centralize that, back to something that's a little bit
global
more
terms come through.
Starting point.
All of the things that you did in that project come through to your new Office Master. You copy a project, whether you copy the Office Master as a new project or copy a project to make a new Office Master, all of the work that you did comes through. Okay. I think one of the coolest features of that, we'll get to it in a minute, is the comments and how you can handle comments when you copy an Office Master. Because you may not want to copy all the comments that were made when that Office Master was updated into a project. That's something you get to decide on. So that's a pretty big deal. The one thing I will say about this process is when I copy an existing project to create a new Office Master, make sure you rename it. Really pay attention to that. You're going to see this little copy of, and then you're going to see the one. Make sure new Office Master or whatever it might be. Make sure you do that. I'm going to cancel out of that so we don't go through that process. All right.
Gary, can I ask you a quick question? And it's something that I think you hit on a previous screen. And if this is out of sequence here, let me know. But we got a comment from Nicholas saying that the ability to hide RIB content is locked for him. And how does he access that?
That could be one of two things. It could be something that wasn't purchased as part of the account, or it could be something that's part of your role permissions.
So it's not role permissions. I did ask that.
Okay,
and they said that he's not. So
that may be something to talk to the account manager about and make sure that they have that ability to do that. Yep.
Okay, Nicholas, I hope that gets you. Reach out to your account manager and we can go from there.
Or just reach out to Dory. Everybody I'll send you Dory's personal email and cell phone number. No problem. We'll get you taken care of. Yep. Alex has already done that for you. Great. Perfect.
Okay, fantastic. I'll tell my wife I'm not coming home tonight. I'll just be fielding emails all day.
I'm not. I don't mess with the wives. Excellent.
Good idea.
So moving from the importing and building all of those things that go into that work in progress Office Master, the other thing you want to do with that Office Master is put your own user defined formatting template in. So I'm going to give you a very basic example. I want to be respectful of time, but also I know we've got a few more steps to go through. So I want to just give you a basic example of what it looks like if I go into a section. This is also something that I find a lot of people don't know you can do. If I clicked on RIB concrete reinforcing right now, it would open the concrete reinforcing section. Great, but it would take over this tab. A lot of people don't like that. All right, and I've been teaching this since probably 6 years now. It took a couple of versions to get this the way it works now. But if you right click on the name of the section, you will have an ability to open that section in a new tab. I've had plenty of people say, okay, well, big deal. It is kind of a big deal because now I can always come back to this and open another section and open another section. Now, you do have a sections menu in the section. It's not as comfortable for me. This makes a lot more sense. This seems to work very, very well. Okay. So if I'm moving through here and just activating a few things, you're going to see some things that I want to make sure I point out. Maybe I come down to part 2 and turn on manufacturers, and we're looking at reinforcement, and when we look at the way this is formatted, so I can see part 1 general and section includes, it's taking a second to do that. So you're going to see a specific numbering like 1.01 and then a capital A. So some people think, okay, that's standard, and I get that. Some people like these things to look a little differently, and that's where this formatting comes through. So you can build your own custom formatting. So without going into, the details, this edit menu allows you to do that. Again, maybe another great SpecTalk option down the road to talk about, but I've got ABC Architects custom formatting. I can actually choose that and say, hey, apply this to just this one section so we can see what this looks like. Well, now we get a little different of a number 1 next to part 1 general. Some people don't do that. Okay, if I come down, it'll be 2 and 2.1. And then there's that capital A is still there, that type of thing. So it looks a little bit different. What if we chose something like the CSI? Let's see, we'll go down and say, I've got, I want to see if I have an actual PRA spec. So I built a PRA specs format at one point. So this one's got a lot of different attributes to the text. So 1.1 and they're italicized, and so it's a little bit different of a look and feel, and you can go in and build those if you want. Okay, so that's a very important thing to know. That's a big step in this. So we've got 6 system defined templates, and then you have a whole bunch of options for creating your own templates. That's a big deal. The other thing you want to look at when you're building your Office Master, build your own template, but then go in and build your own header and footer. All right, so you can actually do this. There's a template header and footer already in. So the footer is going to give you the project name, the section ID, the page number, and the section name. These are just global terms. And if you're new to SpecLink, global terms are just placeholders. So if I was to preview this, you wouldn't see anything in the header, but those things would be in the footer. You'd already have that. And that's a pretty big deal. PRA Office Master, 032,000, one page, or page 1, concrete reinforcing. And then, because of the print menu, you actually have the ability to put blank pages. That's a super cool thing. But you can actually type in what you want. You can use a list of global terms, or you can even put in images and create more tables. You can delete the tables. It's very, very flexible. All right, so be very aware of that. Those are two
This is the
things.
part
Go
of
ahead.
my demos. Yeah, no, this is the part of my demos where I get a lot of gasping from people, like
Yep.
the amount of time that I would save on all of these features.
Absolutely.
I love hitting
Yeah.
that part of the demo. We've got a quick question, Gary, if I can, because I think it's relative to what you're saying there. Faith is
Yep.
asking or suggesting we could really use the ability to separate part number from title with a tab to meet some of our clients' template requirements. Is that a thing we can do?
That's a good one. The best thing to do, Faith, is send a good example into support so that they can see what that looks like. Spacing wise, I don't think I've tried that. So that would be a good thing for our support team to take a peek at.
Okay,
Good one.
thank you, Gary.
Good one. Yeah. We get for everything that we go in and put a new item in or a new function, we think, wow, this is it. Somebody will come up with okay, but will it do this? And 9 times out of 10, that thing is like, okay, well, that's so common sense. Why didn't we come up? You know what I mean? So that we get the best feature enhancements or requests from the users. So keep those coming. If you're like, geez, can it do this? Send it into support. Look in the guide first to see if there's something that says, hey, yes, you can do this, or no, you can't do that, but definitely do that. All right.
Okay. On the header and footer topic, is there a way to modify the line weight, the thickness of the line that's around the header and footer? Question came in from Bridget saying, could we please get a lighter line weight for the header footer graphic line? Is there a way to control that?
Oh, yes. So I think what you're talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if I was to say I want the global term of the, I'll put the, let's say, I'll put the project ID up here, okay? But below the header and above the footer, or actually either way, you can put this horizontal line. And I think that's what we're talking about here. I can actually put those in. You can't see them here, but if I save and preview this, you're actually going to see that line. Right now,
Yes.
no, that we can't change the weight on that at all. There's no options, but we've had multiple requests about that and color. We've had people ask, "Hey, can I
and
make
the
that
gap
red? Can I make this?" Yep, yep.
and the
So good
spacing
question.
between the header, footer, and lines. So I think that just answered a few questions that are coming through on the headers and footers. Thank you, Gary, for
Yep.
clarifying that.
Sure, sure. So as you've built your Office Master and you've built in your custom formatting template and you've built in your header or footer, these are all look and feel. Make sure this all is going to come together the way you want to. But really, what is the most important thing, right? The content is the most important thing. So we're going to make sure we keep the content updated. So we're going to have a team of people that are reviewing the content. If you're using the RIB content, you will see updates come up. It will immediately tell you at the top of the screen, hey, there's an update available for this. Okay. This also goes along with role permissions. So you may not have the role permission to actually update, but you'll still be able to see that there are updates. And that's something to work within your own organization about. I put together a very quick example, but I don't want to veer too far away from our steps that we're in now. I'm going to cheat just a little bit. Don't do what I do. Do as I say. Here we go. I'm going to go back to projects because I have a project here, and you're going to see this is crazy. This is this is a project that I've kept here forever. And all of these are updates. I just haven't updated those sections. I'm going to go into the equipment, and we're going to look at the stationary dock equipment. And this stationary dock equipment has 6 updates. So if I look at 6 updates available, this is where it's going to show you how many updates are available. It's going to show you back here, obviously. You're going to see 6 and 6 updates with a little clock face. And then when I'm here, I can click on 6 updates available, or I can click on edit and update, either way. If I click on that, I'm going to see that I've got no master text updates. That's okay. I've got 4 reference standards and 2 manufacturers. The one thing I like to show people, because most people don't ever even see this, if you scroll through the section before you do anything, you can actually see, it's noted what's happening. So we have a new manufacturer being added in here. We have another new manufacturer being added in here. And if I go back up to reference standards, I think you'll see, oh, they might be down later. If I click on reference standards, oh, there we go. We can see the yellow. So the yellow ones there, the orange, yellow, my eyesight, these mean there's an update. The green means they're brand new. So I can accept those, and then I can go to the manufacturers, and I can actually click on one to see, okay, this is a new paragraph. I can accept that paragraph, that type of thing. If I didn't want a particular one, I can just leave it. There's no rejecting. You just ignore it. Okay, I'm going to accept them all. That makes a lot of sense to me. And then I go from update back to edit mode, and now I've updated my section completely. Make sure you keep your Office Masters updated. Okay, that's a very integral part of this, because even when you copy your Office Master to create a project, you're still going to see those updates. If you used RIB content, or if in your user content you dragged reference standards over from our library, you're going to get the updates for those. That's a very important thing to know and to be aware of. All right, so good little walkthrough there. So we get it back into our Office Master project here with our concrete reinforcing. So let's say I've done all those things. I've created my first work in progress Office Master. I've imported any sections in, whether it's user content or maybe from other SpecLink projects. However, it's taken me to build this up, and then time goes by. I can close this down. Everything's good with this. Everything's saved. All changes are saved. I can just close that because I have my sections list still open over here. If I didn't, I would want to follow the path back. So be aware of that. So from here, I'm going to go to my Office Masters. And let's say it's time to make that next quarter the new work in progress Office Master. So I created Q1 and it had all these changes made. So now I want to lock that down because I want to version it to make a new work in progress Office Master, so the Office Master team can get to work and make any of their changes in that moving forward, right? So what I'm going to do is a couple of basic steps here. I'm going to go to my Q1 and I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go to my summary info and I'm going to lock it. Okay. More than anything, the lock is an indicator to the system managers and managers that we don't want to make any changes to this. But we can still copy it. We just don't want to make any changes to the Office Master. What we want to do is come back to the Office Master now. I want to create a new master. and I want to say I want to create a new office master, and I want to copy from an office master, which is going to be that Q1 office master. And when I click next, Dory, what was the first thing I said to make sure you look at? Alex, do you remember? Anybody?
Rename it.
Rename it. You got to rename it. So I'm going to say delete that and then come back and say Q2. Okay. And then again, I can go through and choose everything that I need. Again, these things don't matter. Again, I like to use other when it comes to office masters, just because if I sort, I know that the office master isn't going to get in the way of any kind of sorting. So I can say those. Now, this is one of those features that I think really does change the way people work. Do you want to copy comments from the original project? So throughout the process of creating that work in progress office master, we've used the commenting tool a lot. So I'm going to show you in just a sec, but they're conversations that could be coming from internal people, the discipline heads, maybe it's somebody that's the subject matter expert on just the division or whatever. It could be comments coming from a building product manufacturer so that they can clarify things on their products. When you're in the middle of a section, you can share and collaborate with people outside of your little universe. So it's a really important thing to understand. So this is really going to be about, do we want to copy comments? I've seen a few people get really smart about this. And what they do is they copy all active comments. So the non-active ones, the ones they've kind of set up as different statuses, they are not copied. This is really important because comments could be something as those that are working through the next version of this, that could be very useful. Because this is going to be the next office master, you may want to copy all comments just so that you always have those as part of the project. So it's a couple of different ways to think about that. The other thing that happens is when we click finish, this process is a little bit different. So it's going to show up and say, hey, this is queued, and you give it a few minutes. Now you can keep working, but I've noticed over and over again, when this starts to give you a percentage, this is going to work. It's actually been a while since one of these things didn't work. And the only reason why I used to run into some issues with copying projects was there was a bug with global terms quite a while ago, but I haven't seen that in quite a while. This has actually been a really steady and sturdy part of the system, is being able to copy projects. So now that project is automatically copied, and I'm already working now from Q2. All right. So once I have that Q2, go back to my projects here. There we go. So Q2. Now Q2 is locked because, well, Q1 was. So I can go back in there and click on summary and unlock it. Get back into sections, and now I start that process over again. Grab the office master team. They start diving in and making their changes here. All right, well, that's great. But what happens with this one? Okay, well, this becomes that 2025 Q1, that locked version becomes what new projects are created from. All right, so we create active projects from the office master. And I've got the steps for that here. Again, really, I'm going to walk you through this. We don't have to read through that slide by slide. This is the kind of the thing is we take this and we copy it for any new project because we should have most of the content that we need, if not all, for any project in that one office master. All right. So that process looks like this. Here I am back on my projects, and I'll click on create new project. I want an active project because I'm going to build a new library. I'm going to copy from an office master, and I'm going to choose Q1. I'm not going to choose Q2. That's locked anyway. If I choose Q1, I can click next. I'll fill all those things out. In this case, again, really important. Make sure you rename this. I'm going to call this. I'm actually down in Plymouth, Mass. I see a really funny meme all the time for those people that say they're from Boston, and it actually extends all the way down to the South Shore. So I'm from Plymouth, Mass. So Plymouth Library.
Gary, while you're filling that out,
Go ahead.
this is your 10-minute warning.
Yep.
That we've got 10 minutes left.
Perfect.
I am okay to run a little bit long, and if people have to duck off, that's no problem because we're recording these and they're going up to YouTube afterwards. So if we got to stick around a couple extra minutes to answer some questions, I'm okay with that, Gary, if you are, and we'll try to get everybody answered.
Absolutely. I will be done on time. However, we can absolutely do that. we can
Okay.
stay and answer
Yeah,
questions.
there's a couple of specific ones that I need to make sure we get answered today for some friends and favors that I need to announce.
Excellent. So
There's
same
some of these.
process.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yep.
No, it's just we got some very early questions that I said, yeah, we'll get to those. We'll get to
Yep.
those, and now it's like we just got to make sure we get to those. So.
Yep. Yep. So
But
same
great
process. You're going to
questions
go through
today.
and
Honestly,
copy
it's
that.
yeah.
And again, I'll include this in the slide in the PDF of the slides, and I'll put the links to the guide articles. Really, the last thing that I wanted to show, and I'm going to let that finish up. So that project library. Let's see if we choose. There we go.
Gary, quick clarification here
Go
that
ahead.
Faith is asking. It says, clarification, please. You lock the Q1 master, which can still then be used for the projects and then work behind the scenes on the Q2 master until it's ready for release? Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Now, again, when I copied this, that project was locked. So again, very simple to unlock this. And this could be something that you work a little bit differently in your organization as far as the project lock goes. But learn more about project lock in the guide. No big deal there. It's really just an indicator to say, hey, this is something that we don't want to mess with, that type of thing. So the last thing I want to show, where we have the minute to do it, is the commenting. So I've watched this feature evolve from a very basic, almost like text-based ask a question, answer a question, that type of thing, to something that you can run a report on, to all the statuses of the and priorities. This is a very important feature when it comes to the collaboration. I really feel like this is part of maybe another SpecTalk down the road. But if I'm in a section at any point, I can ask a question. So anybody that has access to the project, I can go. You'll notice that right along the right margin, if I get down here, maybe I'm looking at substitutions. Maybe I just wonder if we're allowed even to include substitutions. I can click on that little plus sign, and I can type somebody's name in. And what happens is if I say @ it gives me a list of all the people that have access to the project. So I can click Chris Garrison as an alias, and I can say, are we specifying specking subs? Okay, so I can do that, or substitutions. So I can do that, and what's going to happen when I comment, first of all, I can choose a priority and say this is a medium priority, and I can say this is an in progress statement. So you can choose the status for these things. That's all, and you can use these any way you want. So I can say that's open, and I can click comment. Now, Chris Garrison's going to get an email, so my Gmail is probably freaking out right now. And I can continue this conversation with Chris about, hey, but think about having these things documented. I asked this question on this date. This was the answer that I got, blah, 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 blah. So the other thing you can do with that is generate a comments report in an Excel spreadsheet. So maybe you copy all those comments when you version from Q2 to Q3, and then you create that comments report. And now you have a running log of everything that's been asked, answered, questioned, or anything within your Office Master. So I think the commenting feature is incredibly important. So, Dory, what can we answer now?
No, I'm just reading a question here about the somebody had suggested it'd be neat to have a chat feature in SpecLink where you can communicate with.
That's your chat feature. Commenting is your chat feature.
Okay, I have to go back to a specific one here for. I'm just finding the time here. I made a note of the time. All right, my friend Lauren is asking, and Lauren is on here with Emil about the two-part question. How does RIB SpecLink update for new products or manufacturers? And then the second question is, how does RIB SpecLink track and include manufacturer updates? Is it looking at manufacturers' websites, directly communicating with manufacturers? For example, we're looking at a specific adhesive installation system for exterior fiber cement panels, a new system from an old manufacturer. So how are the updates triggered? I guess is the question, if I'm sort of reducing it to something specific.
Alex, do you want to take that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead with that one?
So our content team spends all day, every day. Like they're discipline experts. They're specifiers, previous specifiers. It's what they do for a living. So basically, they're going to go through their sections that they have available or that they're responsible for, and they're going to keep up with those reference standards. They're going to keep up with the manufacturers. So in this case, if I don't do anything and look down at the manufacturers, we can see a whole list of manufacturers here. All right. So in for different reasons, commercial toilet, shower, and bath accessories, institutional security, residential toilet, shower, and bath. There's healthcare. There's a lot of different manufacturers here. What I guarantee is if we look here, we probably have some manufacturer updates of those 92. So the content team member that is in charge of this section is keeping an eye on all of these manufacturers and the industry itself. So when they see something that should be added in, a brand new manufacturer, genuinely they have to pass a certain litany of hey, does it meet these requirements? Is it something that's in the industry? We're not going to put something in that doesn't cut it in actual construction. So we can absolutely get more information about how they rate them or how they look at those from our content team. But yeah, they go through a pretty rigorous review to make sure they belong in SpecLink.
Right. We got a couple of questions about headers and footers. I'm going to pick this one from Anton here. So Lauren, Emil, I hope that answered your questions there. Anton's asking, when you want to add a section from another project, how does the footer and header get updated / coordinated with the project standards? Is this a manual up? Does it assume the properties of the project that it's being imported into?
Yep.
So there is nothing that you have to update. It just knows that it's now part of that project, and that section will assume those. Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
So it's kind of like the formatting. Think of the content in the middle, and then on the outside, if you're thinking of web design, think of the box outside. That's telling it what to do. So I want you to look like this. I want you to feel like that, and I want you to put this header and footer on. Yep.
I think I know the answer to this, but Jessica's asking can they turn off updates? The comment is it would be nice to not have update notices on a project that's been issued.
Nobody will see that nobody's ever going to see the updates except for you using SpecLink. So they won't see that. Yep.
But as an internal user, they will always see that there's updates for that project, even though that project's been issued already.
Right on.
Excellent. Alex, if you're seeing a question in here that needs to bump up, by all means, jump. Oh, hold on. I remember Paul had asked a question here. And all right, let me go back and find that one. Is there a way to accept all updates within a master project with one click?
Not yet.
Not yet. So it's still got to be division or section by section. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And if you can write a quick email, send a quick email in just with that statement to our support team, because every time what they do is they kind of keep those in a folder and say, hey, we're getting way more requests for this, and that rises to the top of the development list. So that's how to do that.
Okay. Sharon's asking a question here. It says, in my admin role, where do I find the permissions levels attributed to a name or set of initials?
So if you are, two different things. The people tab up here will give you two different worlds. If I click on people, I can see the users. In here, what you want to do is come over to and I'll use this Chris Garrison account again. I'll come over here. In Chris Garrison, you can actually choose what content they can actually see, which, and by masters, it doesn't mean office masters. This means RIB, US, Canada, or NMS, that type of thing, and how many divisions within. Here you see the projects that they have available to them. So if there was a reason to say we want to be able to give them access to this private project or this hidden project, that's where you would click. When you see all divisions and all projects is true. They have access to all divisions currently. All projects isn't necessarily true. You need to click on that to see, okay, they don't have access to the West Side Lobby or Training Master hidden projects. This is where I'd give them access to those. Okay. The other level you can do is come to the options menu, the three dots, the ellipsis, and I can go to the info and edit the user. And this is where I can change them from a manager to a system manager to an expert, standard user, that type of thing. The other world of the people tab is the role permissions. And this is where you can decide what makes up a standard user, what makes up an expert user. There is a hierarchy to it. So if you're a standard user, or I should say, if you're an expert user, you clearly can do everything a standard user can do. Standard user, expert user, manager, system manager.
Excellent. I get another question from George. George is asking, and I know the answer to this, maybe a quick demo would be great. Can you design an entire project in one format, CSI, for example, and convert it to another entire format, AIA? So,
Sure.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
the formats are global.
Yeah. So Gary's navigating to do that right now, I hope.
Got to do it from within a section. Okay. Yep. So open the section. I can close that section. And from within the section, you simply, this particular project is by default in the CSI format. If I go to AIA format, apply to project, and now every section will be in what we have as the AIA format. So this is exactly what I would do is say, hey, if I'm creating a project or I have something that, is from another, maybe I have multiple formats because we have multiple architecture firms for clients. I can say, hey, I want this to be the PRA specs, or I want XYZ format. Apply to the whole project, and now the XYZ will take over.
And as an architect, we are guilty of wanting to see things certain ways. So sometimes you might have one spec consultant who's writing specs for 10 different architects. So I want my font, they want their font, they want their font. Yeah, or format, or whatever it is.
You know, the one thing that I've heard more than anything, though, is this 0. So from the CSI format, that 0, 1.01, that's what so many people have said, how do I get rid of that? I created a very simple, hey, CSI format no 0, apply to project. And now that 0 just goes away for the entire project.
All right, let's see what else we got. We're over time now, guys, but I'm good to stick around a little bit more. We've got a question here about being able to provide real Office Master examples. Is what you're showing us, Gary, is this from a specific sort of renamed project?
Yeah, so what I want to clarify the question. So we wouldn't share an Office Master, somebody else's Office Master, with another client. I'm not sure if that's what they're asking. An Office Master is a project. So there's, and I'm famous for saying this at this point, there is no difference in the functionality between the Projects tab and the Office Masters tab. There's literally no difference in the functionality. It's who has access to the Office Masters in the concept of an Office Master versus an active project. So we wouldn't share somebody's Office Master with another firm.
Right. All right. What else do we got here? Geez, so many questions today, guys. This is amazing. Here, let's. We got something. A couple have come through about accepting updates. So Carson is asking, if you use the update function, will it overwrite any custom content you inputted, or do you lose that?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Nope. Your custom content is different than okay, so let's be very clear about this. That's a great question, and thank you for asking it in this environment. So if I was to come down to start activating a few things, okay, I came here to reinforcing steel, and I said, okay, notice this origin column. I'm going to point this out first. There's an origin column right here, the O. All right. If I backspace over or deformed, because I want plain bars, I backspace over that. Okay. And an update comes to this. It doesn't change the fact that I backspaced over that. This M with the asterisk means that this is a modified master paragraph. So it's a master RIB paragraph, but I made modifications to it. What your update would do is change that. So that's the master version of it. Your modified version would not change. Oh, we lost Alex. Excellent. He ran away.
Oh, did we? He could have had a meeting that we were.
Maybe.
So let's find one more. We still have almost 200 people on here with us, guys. These are like the troopers of the troopers of the troopers. This is fantastic, and thank you all for still hanging out with us. So Faith has got a lot to say. We're gonna
Oh,
get. I'm gonna
right.
bug Faith one day to. We're gonna have a chat on the side. Maybe we'll get
Right.
her on here one day
Can
to
I
share.
interrupt for 1 second though? Because
Of
this is
course.
the way we work, right? So I'm getting messages, I'm getting text messages, and but Matt Monaco brought up a really, really great point that I gotta mention. So
Let's hear
if
it.
we go back to Office Masters, he made a really good point. Instead of locking or along with locking that quarter one, you could and this could go either way. You could do this for the quarter one or the quarter two. That's a work in progress. In fact, I think that's probably the better option is when you go to that quarter two, which is the one that people are working on for the new work in progress. Nobody's copying this project yet. This is a good one to make a hidden project. That's a really good tip there, is to make the one that only the Office Master team is working in. That's a good tip to maybe hide that project, so you never have to worry about anybody that shouldn't be, couldn't be, or what have you. You are very diligently controlling who can actually get into that project. So thanks, Matt. That's a very, very good point.
So now I'm just gonna give everybody your cell number, and they can just text you directly for all these
We'll
questions
give
today.
him
Matt, how
Matt's. I
about
have Matt's cell phone number right here. We'll give him Matt's cell phone number. That's a much better
I'm just
idea.
gonna. I'll just take the hour off. Just put my
Yep.
feet up and just. All right. Um, Corrine, Trooper was a great Canadian band. I love. We're just having our little Canadian conversations on the side here. Don't mind us. We'll try
We
not to
won't mind you.
occupy.
Don't worry.
No, yeah. We're just trying to take down your Bruins.
When a Canadian team wins the cup, we'll talk about it.
It's an odds game. Stats. There's so many more American teams. Like, give us a
Wow, I
break here.
said that out loud,
You did.
recorded
You
too.
did. And there go all of our Canadian subscribers. Thanks a lot, Gary. uh, so we have. Oh,
We want to do our
here's a
wrap up.
great speaking point. One more. Let's take this one from Paul because this is a great one. We have different, and we had talked about this earlier, Gary. So the question is we have different practice groups, healthcare versus commercial, that may want different master content.
Oh,
I'm like, this is Paul. This is Paul. Like, you downloaded Gary's brain. Should we keep one master for the office or create one master for each practice group and go?
okay. So first of all, Paul, if you download my brain, I'm so sorry. That's not fair to anybody. So I was hoping Alex would be able to stay on for a couple minutes because he's got some examples of this too. But I always bring up this one example of a company that I work with very closely, that I love the people at. But and I learned a lot from this organization who's close by. But the question always comes: do you have one office master? How many office masters should we have?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's up to you. Okay, so if you're working siloed for your disciplines, okay, have multiple office masters. That's fine. Okay. Um, just remember that once you put that project together, you're going to do a lot of that import from project, and you might not need to do those things. If you have one office master, you've got everything that should go in any project there. The exceptions that prove that rule are something like the organization I mentioned. So if you walk into their office, there's a hallway that goes to the right and a hallway that goes to the left. And the hallway that goes to the right does all healthcare. They build cancer hospitals. They build a lot of research laboratories. They have their own office master. If you go to the left, they do all higher education. So they build colleges and universities and dormitories and things like that. They have their own office master because they don't cross the streams. That's a great way to look at that because they're updating things a little bit differently with a different, thought process. But that's up to you. Whatever's going to work best for you and save you the most time is the way you should do that. Our content team will always tell you one office master for your organization is best. I've been working with a lot of organizations lately that are combinations of a bunch of smaller organizations. The same way when I started for the first couple of years, it was building systems design. We were acquired by RIB. So that's happened a lot. So I was in the middle of training one organization recently, only to find out that somebody on the line was part of an organization that had already built an office master. So they were kind of combining their SpecLink accounts and doing that. And sometimes there can be some extra work and growing pains in that, but all for the greater good, right? Because down the road, every time you update that office master and then use that updated version to create a project, you've saved yourself an exponential amount of time. So you're going from, all right, we're using SpecLink, so we're saving 60% of the time we would have if we were using Word documents. Now it's 70, now it's 80, now it's 82, now it's, you know what I mean? So it's that big a deal.
Gary, you're a rock star, man.
Dory, only because you're here, buddy.
So we are going to wrap it up here, and I had a blast today. I'm usually busy on these fielding comments and stuff, and they were coming 1,000 miles per hour from all directions. Look at all the applause, Gary. You did a wonderful job. This is we could do this for another hour, but I don't think we have that time today. So we are going
I
to
think
start.
everybody that's on this call should email Dory and tell him to do a podcast, a full-on podcast, because he's spectacular at this. So
Oh, that's too kind.
I think we should be doing that. Yep.
I will say I am up for connecting. So if anybody's on LinkedIn and wants to reach out, and I do a ton of videos about specs and SpecLink and keeping you guys up to date. I'll be doing recap videos on all these spec talks. So by all means, reach out on LinkedIn to Gary or I. I'd love to stay connected. Gary, do you want to talk about the SpecLink training while we wrap up?
I do. So every month we do an essentials webinar and a new user training webinar. So the essentials is an hour. The new user training is 3 hours. They are usually on that second Tuesday and second Wednesday. We are working to develop, and we actually have it scheduled for February. It's the week after that. It's a full day, but it's a foundations course. So if you are brand new to SpecLink, or maybe you're the champion, you've been nominated as the champion in your organization, and you're wondering, oh, where do I start? That foundations course is going to be a big deal too. All of these things, the essentials and the new user training are complimentary. You can go to those anytime you want, and there are new on-demand versions of those that we have available to you. Look on the guide. The most updated links for the live and on-demand versions of these are in the SpecLink Cloud guide, or look at our website. Look at ribsoftware.com. That has the links to both the live and the on-demand versions. All right. And
Excellent.
if you are interested in that foundations, that 1 day, 8-hour foundations course, get a hold of your account manager, and they will get you signed up for the February version of that.
And Gary puts on a good show, if you didn't know that already. Also, this is kind of an open invitation. So we love to have new and different guests on every couple of weeks here. If you are deep into SpecLink and you have something to share and you have some tips and tricks and ideas that you think that the community could learn more about, by all means, reach out to us. The email address is on the screen there. We'd love to chat and maybe consider you as a guest for a future episode. That would be fantastic. Reminder that in the handout, George just asked a question. I'll answer it again. In the materials section of GoToWebinar here, we do have a sheet where you can access all of the pre-recorded videos. It's a QR code. You got to scan it. It'll bring you to YouTube, where they all are. So that's fantastic. And then our next episode, 2 last things, then everybody gets to go have their late lunch. February 5th is our next episode. David Abrams from RIB SpecLink will be on with us, and we're going to be focusing on how owners can use and leverage SpecLink as a tool to help their roles in any construction project. So David's going to be, and David's going to be another one. We're going to have a great conversation. There will be a lot of laughs. I guarantee you that. So it's going to be valuable information and a good time. And also we are putting on an RIB Unite event where we are talking to construction professionals from across the globe about trends within the construction industry, collaboration, new technologies. And if you're interested in learning how the rest of the world is approaching their construction projects with new and exciting ideas, check out RIB on LinkedIn. If you're going to LinkedIn to connect with Gary and I anyways, go follow RIB Software as well. You'll have some great access to RIB Unite. And I'm not going to say who's hosting it. Okay, I'm going to say who's hosting it. It's me hosting it, guys. So you'll get to see me up on the screen there, and just having a little more fun with the whole process. So I just want to thank everybody again for joining us today. Gary, I'm not surprised, but I'm always impressed. It was a wonderful hour and 15 minutes you shared with us, and I'm looking forward to doing this again. Will you do it again with us, Gary?
Absolutely. I just hope it was helpful for people to see the steps that you can go through to build this Office Master. I really do think it's the one thing, whether it's a small organization, maybe a couple of people, or a very large organization, this is the way to get started and really save yourself an incredible amount of time.
All right. And then just this isn't for you, Gary. This is for everybody else. I'll try to get Gary to stop talking about the Boston Bruins so much. We're gonna go have an offline meeting
I said two
about
things.
two.
You're just mad because I
That,
made the cup comment about the Canadian teams. They'll get there. They'll get there.
do you know how easy it is to trigger me in hockey talk, Gary?
So
Like, you know
easy.
this.
So easy.
It's almost like you're like assaulting me. I gotta
So
fight
easy.
back somehow. Maybe this May. Awesome, guys. Pleasure. Reach out anytime, and look forward to seeing you guys in a couple of weeks. All right. Peace.
Thanks, everybody. Bye now.